Hello, YouTube. Before you join iGenius, please know you may obtain membership in a community, you may have fun, you may think that you learn a little bit about how to day trade, but please do not delude yourself into thinking you're going to make money, certainly not millions. No one is making millions in iGenius, and I'm going to show you how I figured this out. This is a very deep analysis. I used a lot of tools obtained through ChatGPT that I otherwise would not have had access to, such as programming languages such as Python. And I'm going to give you the too long didn't watch version right here. This is a very, very charitable look at the income distribution. In other words, I am giving iGenius every benefit of the doubt that there are some individuals in this company making a lot of money. And hard as I tried, I could not squeeze, finagle, squish the data in such a way as to make this a good business opportunity. Let's just get right into it. First, I'm going to give you a methodology overview of the tools that I used and the sources. This is all derived from stuff that you can get on the internet. I rely very heavily on SEC filings, which Anthony Napolitano and others within iGenius strongly encourage their members to look at. And I don't believe anybody is looking at this stuff, but they should. I'm also using data that has been published by iGenius themselves, membership and pricing data, including material from their press releases. And I'm using such data as subscription revenue, active member estimates, again, all provided by the company, churn rates that are historical, and commission payouts. Okay, how did I prepare the data and normalize it? In other words, when this is a normalized image on the right there, it is a glass of water. All data were annualized or quaternized. In other words, it's either yearly or quarterly data. I did adjust for seasonal variations. Estimations of missing subscriber count were done using something called a trailing 12-month average and growth differentials, and then manually reviewed outliers that are linked to things like new product launches. Then we did some statistical modeling. We applied percentile and decile. Those are 10 parts, segmentation of earnings, assumed a binary compensation plan, which is what iGenius has. Then participation rates. Now, these are quotes. This was taken from the mouth of Anthony Napolitano and others. It's assuming that somewhere between 7 and 12% of all subscribers are actually involved in the compensation plan, which means that they receive enough money, more than $600 in commissions every year, and therefore receive a 1099 from the company. I simulated the earnings using a Monte Carlo distribution, and then we got means, medians, which are very important, and confidence intervals were obtained, but I don't believe they were removed from the graphs for the purpose of clarity. Sensitivity testing was then done. They were conducted on churn rate, subscription lifespan, revenue to payout ratios, and we generated alternative income distributions to test the robustness of the model. Now, here's where I really required help from ChatGPT, because I don't have subscriptions to Python, and they generated all the graphs for me, and I'm going to try to explain them to you. Okay, next, what are some of the assumptions that I made and some limitations on the analysis? We used macro indicators to try to infer distributor level data. Not perfect, but pretty good. We estimated based on comparable MLM income distributions. And this is one case where I want to reiterate and emphasize that we're painting the best possible face that we can on iGenius. In general, when a multi-level marketing company does not publish an income disclosure statement, it is generally because their distribution of incomes is probably worse, in some cases probably much, much worse than published income disclosure statements from other companies. So a limitation is that these are modeled outcomes, not audited data. Sorry, audited data are not available. The methodology adheres to quantitative modeling standards for non-disclosed data. Okay, I'm going to explain this graph, and you can stop and read the left-hand side, but I'm going to show you a blown-up version of this so you can look at this. What do we have here? All companies, distributors of iGenius divided into 10 parts, represented by bar graphs. On the left side, we have the net median annual income. What does that mean? Median, the middle point, net meaning minus an aggregate average subscription cost initially and the monthly costs. On the right, the cumulative share of total income is the red line with the dots. And as what you can see is for the first 4 deciles, this is a money-losing proposition, and it is not until you get to the 9th and 10th decile that one is making a fair amount of money. And look, we really only get into the hundreds of thousands of dollars in the 10th decile. Then I also did a thing called a Lawrence distribution. And please, if you're a data nerd like me, stop the video and read the description on the left, but I want to blow up this graph and show it to you right here. What does this mean? Cumulative share of the population of distributors is on the x-axis, and cumulative share of the income is on the y-axis. And what is this graph meant to show? If there is an even distribution of income across the population, it would be represented by the dotted line. Instead, what we have is this pulled down ski slope distribution. And what that means is that the share of the earnings is very highly concentrated in the top 10% of all distributors. Now let's focus on only the top 1%. And we're going to generate a graph here. And again, this is trying to paint the happiest picture we can on iGenius, trying to squeeze the actual numbers that they gave into a model that shows million-dollar earners, folks, and I couldn't do it. Please, again, stop and read, and I'm going to show you the big version here. Okay, on the left, net median income, 10 to the 5 is 10,000. So these really are only getting up to possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this doesn't scale up until you get into the less than half of 8% of the top earners in iGenius. And again, let's look at the Lawrence distribution. And this is just for the top, even in the top 1%. Look, there is this pull down, like plucking a bowstring, and that it isn't until you get up into the very, very highest reaches of the less than 1% that you get serious concentration of earnings. So this is the overall conclusions that this analysis shows. This is, if it wasn't obvious, I'm going to state it, a highly skewed income distribution. Most of the distributors in the MLM iGenius earn nothing or negative, and only a very small fraction, I'm talking a handful, maybe you could count possibly on one hand, are getting a disproportionately large share of the total commissions, and it's unlikely that anybody is making $1 million a year. And if there are, again, maybe half the fingers on one hand. All right? Now, the analysis shows something else. Revenue trends correlate closely with fluctuations in the volume of subscription and retention rates. And that suggests that there is a systemic dependence on continuous recruitment, okay, rather than long-term product engagement. People don't stay with iGenius for very long. They take the courses for a while, they get bored, or they find out how valuable they are, i.e. not very. And if they're, as Anthony says, happy customers, they're happy customers for a couple months and then they quit. Retention, not so much. Overall, the findings underscore really how lousy the iGenius opportunity is, because folks, Your skills, knowledge, and experience are too valuable to waste in iGenius or any MLM. That's all I got. I'll see you in the next one.